Welcome to a harsh reality broadcast on the 30th of December 2013. The title of this presentation is called Reducing the Rate of Increase. As many of you know, the Federal Reserve have reduced the quantitative easing programme from $85 billion per month to $75 billion per month. And there is absolute euphoria in the mainstream media, and this has caused a significant increase in stocks, whilst at the same time gold has fallen in value. And here is the picture on the 18th of December. We can see that the Dow Jones index was standing at 16,129, an increase of 1.6%, whilst at the same time gold was at $1,220 per ounce, just falling by under 1%. They've only reduced the rate of increase. It's only been reduced by $10 billion per month, yet people seem to be very pleased about that. The fundamentals have not changed in that the debt is still increasing at a rapid rate. The euphoria, in my opinion, will be short-lived once reality sets in. I've spoken about these before, but I wouldn't mind just talking about them again. Optimism bias. This is a bias that causes the person to believe that they are less risk of experiencing a negative event compared to others. And the mainstream media are full of optimism at the moment, and people's mood have changed as a result of this. Another bias is confirmation bias, and I have to admit that I do tend to suffer from this as well, but I do try very, very hard to see things from an objective viewpoint. But I am conscious we all have biases. And this confirmation bias is the tendency for people to favour information that confirm their beliefs. Another bias is normalcy bias. A bias that causes people to believe that the experiences they had in the past will continue into the future. This particular bias, in my opinion, is going to be the one that's going to really affect people, because they are really going to struggle when a new paradigm shift happens, and I'm afraid it is going to happen with the collapse that is evolving at the moment. There's another bias that I've noticed. It's a go with the flow bias. This is a bias I've personally observed. Have you ever noticed that in the main people tend to go with the flow? I have seen it on comments on YouTube threads. The go with the flow bias tends to be dominant when people are discussing topics that they have no particular strong views on. However, when someone posts a contra view, the dynamics change as people's views change, and this is reflected on subsequent comments. That means, I suppose, that certain people can actually make a difference to how discussions are going. I've spoken about this before, but I wouldn't mind speaking about it again, and that's intermittent reinforcement. We are manipulated by the mainstream media. They coordinate news with the politicians. In an attempt to lift the mood of the population, the mainstream media will intermittently provide good news despite the truly awful fundamentals. Can you imagine how desperate people would feel if they did not receive intermittent reinforcement? Because if you look at it logically, the fundamentals are still dreadful, and the reason for that, and I can't couch it in any other way, is debt, and the ingenious ways that the banking elite have managed to get us into debt by the introduction of credit cards, the subprime lending and derivatives. The IMF lifts the US forecast as the economy recovers. The problem is, it's a false recovery. It's based on even more debt. It's a little bit like me having a credit card, wanting to continue my lifestyle, so all I will do is apply for an increase in our credit limit. And that's basically what the US is going to do on the 7th of February next year. They will increase the debt ceiling to keep this false recovery going, and that's all it is. I've done another chart, and this is recent, this is today, on the 30th of December. And note that the Dow Jones index is 16,478 points, significantly high. And it's going to pop. And I'm going to show you a chart soon, and it's quite a scary chart. It's the next slide. Gold is hovering about $1,200 per ounce, showing a drop here of about 1%. And gold continues to fall at the moment. I think it will bottom out soon, actually. I can't really see it going too much lower. Probably drop a little bit more, but I think it's starting to bottom out. But this next chart is very, very worrying. Have a look at this. We look at the markets back in 1929 and the current date, and they follow a very, very similar pattern. And it shows that in January of next year, that's when a crash could happen. Now, what I've learnt whilst I've been on YouTube over the last few years and doing my research, nothing really happens as you expect it to be. And that's because there's far too many variables. But I can tell you with confidence that the trend is towards an economic collapse. People don't see it because the mainstream media are painting a very rosy picture. But just do your research and see how this false recovery is happening. It's all due to debt. So although I can't give you an exact time when the markets will crash, I am sure that they will crash in the near future. What I will also think will happen, gold will rise, and perhaps significantly, once they understand the scam that's being involved with the paper certificates. That's worked on a fractional reserve basis as well. So I think there's going to be very interesting times in 2014. Thank you very much for listening to the video, and hope to comment again next year.